Chief Content Officer Forbes at Imagination Action here at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And we've got a very august interview right now. We have Paul Vasados, the president of the University of Chicago. Welcome. And we're glad we have somebody, we got a lot of MIT, a lot of Stanford. Midwest represent one of the great academic institutions in America and the world. Thank you for joining.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here. There's good energy here, whether it's coming from Cambridge and Palo Alto, or hopefully now also with Chicago.
So tell us what Chicago is doing in terms of harnessing, riding this AI wave. It's where the future is. What do University of Chicago, of course, known for incredible, strong economics department, the classics. Tell us about AI and technology.
So indeed, that's true that all the disciplines of the university have some role to play in what's happening with AI because it's just such a powerful, pervasive thing. But we have been growing our faculty in computer science and AI, and they're out there doing amazing things. Like, just to give you one quick example of like a little vignette, one of our computer science faculty, Ben Zhao, was out there talking with artists. He was at and this woman found that her visual art, her paintings, had been ingested by AI tools, and suddenly she had become a style that was being offered, like, take my drawing and make it in the style of X. And
sure, she got copyright remuneration of zero, right?
Exactly. So Ben stepped in and he's put in a program called Nightshade. Nightshade will alter the visual art such that it's much more difficult for the AI to ingest it and then create that style. So now her future works are copyright protected, whether, the company that's ingesting it has thought about that or not. That is an example of one of the many, many ways in which our faculty are contributing. So, it's all over the place, the whole university.
And how are you incubating students who have startup ideas or new technologies that they want to take out to the world?
It's happening all over the university. We have the Polsky Center for Innovation, which is the single hub at the university that enables students and faculty and friends of the university from the whole area to come in and get help to support, and they're coming out one after another. So there's a lot of energy around this. In fact, one thing I want to say is that these developments in AI are so pervasive that they're causing us to rethink foundationally how we educate and how we organize the whole university.
What are some things going through your thought process right now?
So, you started by saying it's a place that has an incredible history in all kinds of fields, like economics and classics. So what I would say is today we're asking the question, what does it mean to be an educated person? How's that going to change? So at the
if the answer to everything is at your fingertips, what is knowledge, right?
Well, that's right. And if quote the answer, what does that mean? The answer, that's so in our case, we have always educated and will keep educating, starting with a core curriculum. We want every student, no matter what they study, to know how to think like a humanist, a social scientist, a scientist, biological or physical, and a mathematician, and they all study a civilization. So every student does that. Today, what we're thinking is we're going to layer on to that. You should also be educated in what I'll call computational thought. How is it that people think computationally? That's what underlies all of these technologies, the statistics and the underlying computational reasoning. So we're going to educate students with a core curriculum in topics related to AI because that's part of the future of our world.
Well, I think that's right, and that we need people who think correctly first, and then the knowledge they gain, they will gain. But that's what employers are asking for. Give me people who know how to think, know how to make decisions. Exactly. And that's, those are the graduates folks are looking for. A lot of schools are not producing those.
And we don't want to just train people in some tools that are here today and maybe they'll evolve tomorrow. But we do want people who can take those tools, understand what really are the assumptions and what their consequences are, and then use them really well. So that comes from a foundational education that's broad and deep.
Right, because the tools will always evolve, but your thinking will always evolve, but that you have that base. Couldn't agree more.
That's the U Chicago style.
Well, let's talk about the U Chicago style. Let's talk about what's going on in kind of the larger cultural world where those universities, there's probably not since the 60s been kind of a period where universities have been shook to the core. You talk about how we, and I think that's fundamental, using technology to change how we teach, maybe to make, access to college more affordable. But it's also, you see free speech at the core. You see these protests and you see the backlash against, and we saw many university presidents either under siege or get drummed out or leave. And University of Chicago, you guys have been very, very well, what's old is new again, and you see a lot of people coming around to tell us about the Chicago
So
principles.
look, the Chicago principles are at the core of being a truth-seeking institution. And as you said, it goes all the way back. In 1900, William Rainey Harper, first president of the University of Chicago, gave a speech called Free Expression in the University, and he laid out the principles. We will always allow faculty and students to speak their minds. We will, the university itself will not take a position telling people what to think, because that's just so destructive to free expression.
I think that would over the last couple, 18 months, that's been the key.
That's right.
Because, and it was even before that, because once you start taking stands on one thing, where does it end? And that's where people got in trouble. That's where your colleagues at other universities, your presidents got in trouble.
And let's remember, okay, and this is enshrined, by the way, in the Calvin Report, which people can go look up. That's when, we have enshrined this in our way of thinking as an institution, because you might take a position one day and then another and then another. And actually, before you know it, you started to tell everybody in the university what's sanctioned and what's not sanctioned. That's not a university anymore. You've lost truth-seeking. So I think Chicago has been steadfast, stuck with core principles. And what you see is, in a time of crisis, those principles are tested and they prove themselves again and again. So I'm very proud of how our institution and our community of University of Chicago has gone through this period. Yes, it has been contested. These topics of, what's happening in the Middle East and other topics have been contested on our campus. That's what a university is supposed to do.
We want the debate. It's when it feels like, fingers on the scale.
Fingers on the scale. Also, we did not allow those protests to completely disrupt the education of others. Yes, we'll bend backwards to allow free expression, but that's not the same as saying you can disrupt everybody else's learning. So I think we got that balance right, and I'm proud of our university.
What were you when you saw, like, the presidents of Harvard, Penn, and MIT up at that very famous congressional hearing? What were your thoughts in looking at them as your peers? Were you? You had a lot had to be going through your head, because it so directly hit on what University of Chicago does.
I mean, look, my focus has to be on the University of Chicago. So certainly I spent my time talking with my colleagues around the university, thinking with them, what's the right way to think about these issues? So that was really, during that time, that is really how I spent my time. We created during that period a little booklet. I'd be happy to send it to you or to anyone who asks us to, which is called the Chicago Canon. And what we did during that time is we found every critical period of time when a president was tested at the University of Chicago, and we found out what they did. What did they speak? What speeches did they put out? What things did they say? And we made a little booklet out of it, and we shared it. That was our focus.
I'm curious. I bet a lot of university presidents have called you over the last year or two to kind of develop what they should be doing. A, is that true? And B, what do you tell them?
So it is true, but here's what we did do. Actually, on October 6th of that year, the day before, we had launched something called the Chicago Forum for Free Inquiry and Expression. And since then, it's really been built up. It's received some substantial support, and now it's an entity which is there where people can debate free expression at the university, at our place, and we can sharpen our thinking, but also we invite others. We have an Academic Freedom Academy. Last summer, we had 30 universities participate in it, thinking about how free expression works at their university. It won't always be the same. So, yes, I've spoken to many presidents, and, look, every institution will find its own way, but the Chicago principles are very, very powerful. And if I could add one more thing, I'm very interested today in how the Chicago principles themselves could help institutions, not just of higher education, but other truth-seeking institutions in society.
Well, let's name one: Congress.
Well, Congress is a political institution, yes, but could this Prince? I don't know. Let me give you examples where I think they really could. I'm not, I'm going to sidestep the Congress because it's a different. Congress are a natural politician. I say, this is a place for political debate. It's not necessarily, it's complicated.
But the Chicago principles, I believe at least, seem to be rooted in respect for discourse. And maybe that is something that
they are fundamentally. I mean, the one thing we do teach students, we're going back to that core curriculum. Every day we're saying, learn to listen to other people, share your idea, but be happy when somebody challenges you, because that may help you actually find the truth, which is what we're trying to do. Let me give you examples, though. For example, if a scientific society or a scientific journal or a learned society or let's say a panel that is doing drug approvals, those are places where the institutions should have neutrality and the individuals involved should be free to express their views, because those are truth-seeking institutions. Society depends on those experts to have debated things thoroughly. Even ideas that may seem strange or that you don't like should be debated until they're laid to rest. And if you try to put your thumb on the scale in advance, say you're an editor of a scientific journal, and you say, this is our position on these issues. Now suddenly, who can publish in that place and feel like they're getting a fair shake? So those are truth-seeking.
By definition, the seeking of truth is I study the facts and let them lead me to the truth, versus I know the truth and let me find the facts to define my truth.
Exactly. And that's what, society does. We're in a society. Look at all these technologies. They're affecting everyone's life. We need to have thorough debate. And what's happening right now is people don't trust their, quote, experts anymore because they feel like things have been predetermined. Let's go back to truth-seeking. It will restore trust in important institutions that we need in order to thrive in the future.
What you're saying is, this feels very zeitgeisty right now, and I bet a lot of you are going to get a lot more phone calls. Seeking the issue, find hopefully the truth, that's the definition of what the university should do. And we appreciate what you guys do, Mr. President. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.